My daughter invited me to her graduation ceremony, after years of being distant. But when I arrived at the university, the registrar whispered, "I'm sorry, señora. We've never had a student by that name." What I discovered about my daughter's life destroyed our family forever. The burgundy graduation invitation felt heavy in my hands as I sat in the university parking lot, smoothing my best dress and checking my appearance in the rearview mirror. After 3 years of strained conversations and canceled visits, Sophia had finally invited me to share in her proudest moment. My daughter was graduating summa cum laude from UCLA with a degree in biomedical engineering, the culmination of 4 years of hard work that I'd supported both emotionally and financially. The morning sun cast long shadows across the campus as I walked toward the administration building. Clutching the printed directions, Sophia had texted me. She'd been so specific about where to pick up my guest pass, which building to enter, even which parking lot to use. Her attention to detail had always impressed me, even as a child organizing her bedroom with scientific precision. I'd driven 3 hours from Phoenix to be here, leaving at dawn to ensure I wouldn't be late for the 2 p.m. ceremony. The graduation gift in my purse, a $1,000 check, and the antique necklace that had belonged to her grandmother, represented both my pride in her accomplishments and my hope that today might mark a new beginning in our relationship. Sophia and I had grown apart since her sophomore year, when she'd started dating someone I'd never met and began making excuses to avoid coming home for holidays. She claimed her engineering studies were demanding all her time, that she was working on research projects and internships that kept her too busy for family visits. I'd respected her dedication, even when it meant celebrating Christmas and birthdays alone. But today was different. Today, she wanted me here to witness her academic triumph. The invitation had been formal, printed on heavy cardstock with gold lettering, but her handwritten note inside had been warm. "Mom, I can't wait to share this day with you. Thank you for believing in me." The administration building was busier than I'd expected for a Saturday morning, filled with families making last-minute arrangements for the afternoon ceremony. I approached the information desk with my invitation in hand, ready to collect my guest credentials and find my assigned seat in the auditorium. "Good morning, I'm here to pick up guest passes for the graduation ceremony. My daughter is Sophia Morales." The student worker behind the desk looked helpful and efficient as she typed into her computer, but her expression gradually shifted from professional courtesy to puzzled confusion. "I'm sorry, could you spell that last name?"
Morales.
"Sophia Morales, biomedical engineering." Her fingers moved across the keyboard more slowly now, double-checking her search parameters. When she looked up at me again, her eyes held the particular combination of sympathy and discomfort that comes with delivering unwelcome news. What she told me next shattered 4 years of carefully constructed lies. "Ma'am, I'm not finding any record of a Sophia Morales in our graduation list. Let me check with the registrar's office." The words felt like ice water in my veins. No record. No graduation list. I watched the student make a phone call, speaking in hushed tones while glancing at me with increasing concern. "The registrar would like to speak with you directly. She's in room." Walking down the corridor felt surreal, my heels clicking against polished linoleum, while my mind raced through possible explanations. Computer error. Wrong database. Last-minute name change due to marriage. Anything except the growing certainty that something was fundamentally wrong. The registrar was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, who gestured for me to sit across from her desk. Her computer monitor was turned so I could see the search results myself, empty fields where Sophia's academic record should have been. "Mrs. Morales, I've checked our enrollment records going back 6 years. We've never had a student named Sophia Morales in any program at this university." "That's impossible. She's been here for 4 years. Biomedical engineering. Dean's list every semester." The registrar's expression grew more concerned. "Ma'am, are you certain about the university? Perhaps you're thinking of UCLA Medical School or one of our satellite campuses." But even as she offered these alternatives, I could see in her eyes that she understood the implications of what she was telling me. My daughter had been lying to me for years about something as fundamental as where she spent her days and what she was doing with her life. The graduation invitation in my purse suddenly felt like evidence in a criminal case. The gold lettering and formal language that had seemed so prestigious now looked like props in an elaborate deception. The walk back to my car felt like a funeral march for everything I'd believed about my daughter. Sitting in the university parking lot, I stared at families streaming toward the graduation venue, Parents carrying flowers, siblings dressed in their finest clothes, grandparents moving slowly but proudly toward the ceremony, where their loved ones would receive degrees they'd actually earned. My hands shook as I called Sophia's phone, hoping for some innocent explanation that would restore my faith in the daughter I'd raised. The call went straight to voicemail, just as it had for the past 2 weeks whenever I'd tried to discuss graduation details. Sophia, it's Mom. I'm at UCLA, but there seems to be some confusion about your enrollment. Please call me immediately. The desperation in my own voice frightened me. 4 years of tuition payments, living expenses, textbook costs, and urgency funds. 4 years of proud conversations with friends about my daughter, the engineering student. 4 years of believing I was supporting her education while she pursued her dreams. I pulled out my phone and began scrolling through our text message history, looking for clues I might have missed. Sophia's messages had always been brief and focused on practical matters. Requests for money, updates about her grades, explanations for why she couldn't come home for holidays. But now, reading them with new awareness, I noticed what had been missing. Specific details about professors, classmates, research projects, or campus life. Her communications had been carefully generic, filled with the kind of information anyone could find on a university website, rather than the personal experiences of an actual student. The financial implications began to sink in as I sat there. Sophia's education had cost me nearly $200,000 over 4 years. Money I'd borrowed against my retirement accounts. Money I'd earned through overtime shifts at the hospital. Money I'd saved by living frugally and denying myself vacations and luxuries. But the emotional implications were even more devastating. Instead of driving home to Phoenix, I checked into a nearby hotel and began the most painful investigation of my life. If Sophia wasn't a student at UCLA, where had she been for the past 4 years? What had she been doing with the money I'd been sending her, and why had she created such an elaborate deception? I started by calling the apartment complex where I'd been mailing her monthly living expenses. The property manager was professional but cautious about discussing tenant information. I can confirm that Sophia Morales has been a resident here for 3 years, but I can't discuss details of her tenancy without proper authorization. I'm her mother. I've been paying her rent. Ma'am, according to our records, Ms. Morales pays her own rent. We've never received payments from any family members. The ground shifted beneath me again. If I wasn't paying her rent, where was the money I'd been sending her each month? The $800 for housing, plus money for food, textbooks, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses. I drove to Sophia's apartment building, a modern complex in Westwood that I'd never actually visited despite sending rent money there for 3 years. The building was nice, nicer than what a struggling student should be able to afford even with family support. Standing in the lobby, I called Sophia again, and this time she answered. Mom, what are you doing here? Her voice held a touch of panic that I'd never heard before. Not surprise at my unexpected visit, but the kind of fear that comes with being caught in a lie. I'm here for your graduation, Sophia, but UCLA has no record of you ever being enrolled there. The silence on the phone stretched so long that I thought she'd hung up. Mom, I can explain. Come up to apartment. The elevator ride to the 3rd floor felt like ascending to my own execution. Sophia's apartment door opened to reveal my daughter looking older and more sophisticated than I remembered, but also frightened in a way that immediately put me on guard. Behind her, I could see an apartment furnished far more luxuriously than any student dwelling I'd imagined. Leather furniture, expensive electronics, designer clothing draped over chairs, and what appeared to be jewelry scattered on the coffee table. This wasn't the Spartan student accommodation I'd been picturing when I sent money for her basic needs. Mom, please sit down. But I couldn't sit down. I couldn't do anything, except stare at evidence of a lifestyle that didn't match anything Sophia had told me about her college experience. Where did all this come from? How can you afford this? Sophia's composure cracked slightly, and for a moment she looked like the child who'd been caught breaking something valuable. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. Right now. The demand in my voice seemed to surprise both of us. I'd always been the accommodating mother, the one who trusted her daughter's explanations and avoided confrontation. But discovering that 4 years of my life had been built on lies had awakened something fierce and demanding. I never went to UCLA, Mom. I never went to any university. The words hung in the air like a confession at a trial. 4 years of believing my daughter was building a career in biomedical engineering. 4 years of sacrificing my own comfort to support her education. 4 years of pride in her academic achievements. All of it fiction. But her next revelation would be even more devastating. Sophia, if you weren't in school, what were you doing for 4 years? My daughter looked around her expensive apartment as if seeing it through my eyes for the first time, recognizing how it contradicted everything she'd told me about her struggling student lifestyle. I was working, Mom. I've been working since I was supposed to start college. Working where? Doing what? The hesitation in her response told me I wasn't going to like the answer. Different places, different jobs. It's hard to explain. Try me. Sophia walked to the window and stared out at the city, her back to me as if she couldn't bear to see my expression when she revealed the truth. I started out working at a club, just serving drinks, nothing inappropriate, but the money was so good, and the customers were generous, and I realized I could make more in one night than most people make in a week. Club work? My mind immediately went to the worst possibilities, but I forced myself to listen without jumping to conclusions.
What kind of club?
An upscale place in Beverly Hills. Rich clients, expensive drinks, very exclusive. The defensive tone in her voice suggested she knew how this sounded to the mother who'd raised her to value education and traditional career paths. Sophia, are you telling me you've been working as a cocktail waitress for 4 years instead of going to college? It's more complicated than that. How is it more complicated? When she turned back to face me, her expression held a combination of defiance and shame that I'd never seen before. Some of the clients started asking me to accompany them to events. Dinners, parties, business functions. They needed attractive, intelligent women to accompany them. And they paid very well for the service. The euphemistic language couldn't disguise what she was really describing. Sophia, are you talking about escort work? The blunt question made her flinch, but she didn't deny it. It's not what you're thinking, Mom. These are wealthy, successful men who need companionship for social events. Nothing inappropriate happens. Nothing inappropriate about lying to your mother for 4 years while she pays for a college education you never pursued. I was going to tell you eventually. When? After I'd spent my entire retirement savings on your fictional degree. The financial reality was hitting me with full force now. $200,000 sent to support a daughter who was actually earning more money than I made as a registered nurse. Money I'd borrowed against my future. Money I'd earned through extra shifts and careful budgeting. Money I'd sacrificed my own comfort to provide. Mom, I make more money in 1 month than you make in 6 months at the hospital. I was trying to build financial security for both of us. By lying to me, by letting me struggle to pay for an education that didn't exist. I was planning to pay you back. I've been saving money to surprise you with a house, maybe help you retire early. The twisted logic of her justification was staggering. Sophia had been living a luxurious lifestyle while watching me work overtime to fund her supposed education, all while planning some grand gesture that would somehow make up for years of deception. Sophia, do you understand what you've done to me? I've been telling everyone about your academic achievement. I've been so proud of your dedication to engineering. I've been working extra shifts because I thought you needed the money. But Mom, I never asked you to work extra shifts. You asked me to pay your tuition. You asked me to pay your living expenses. You let me believe you were struggling financially when you were actually living in luxury. The sound of voices in the hallway interrupted our confrontation. Sophia, are you expecting someone? Before she could answer, there was a confident knock at the door. Sophia's expression shifted to something between panic and resignation. I have an appointment this afternoon. A business dinner. Cancel it. I can't. This client is very important. And he's already paid. The implications of her words hit me like a physical blow. While I'd been driving 3 hours to attend her fake graduation, Sophia had been planning to spend the afternoon with a paying client. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Sophia looked at me pleadingly. Mom, please, let me handle this quickly, and then we can continue talking. No. I want to see what my tuition money has been supporting. Against Sophia's protests, I moved toward the door. Through the peephole, I could see a well-dressed man in his 50s, carrying what appeared to be an expensive gift box. I opened the door before Sophia could stop me. Good afternoon. I'm Sophia's mother. The man's expression shifted from confident anticipation to obvious discomfort as he realized he was facing an unexpected family situation. I think I may have the wrong apartment. No, you have the right apartment. You're here to pay my daughter for her companionship, aren't you? Sophia was desperately trying to signal for me to stop talking, but I was beyond caring about her embarrassment or this stranger's comfort. Sir, did you know that my daughter has been pretending to be a college student while working as an escort? The man's response revealed more about Sophia's deception than she'd been willing to admit. Your daughter told me she was working her way through graduate school. She said she was getting her master's degrees in biochemistry. Even with clients, Sophia had been maintaining the fiction of being a dedicated student. The layers of deception seemed to go deeper with every revelation. She's not in graduate school. She's never been in any school for the past 4 years. The man looked at Sophia with a mixture of confusion and disappointment that suggested their arrangement had involved more than just financial. Sophia, is this true? My daughter's silence was answer enough. The man set his gift box down on the hallway floor, with the careful dignity of someone who'd realized he'd been played. I've been helping you with your tuition for 8 months. I thought I was supporting someone's education. Another revelation that left me speechless. Sophia hadn't just been deceiving me about her college experience. She'd been running the same scam on multiple people, collecting money for a fictional education from various sources. How many people have you been lying to about school? Sophia couldn't meet anyone's eyes. It's complicated. No, it's simple. You've been running a con game, using people's desire to help a struggling student to fund your luxury lifestyle. The client was already walking away, apparently wanting no part of whatever family drama he'd stumbled into. His departure left Sophia and me alone to face the complete collapse of our relationship. But I still didn't know the full extent of her deception. Back inside the apartment, I demanded to see Sophia's bank statements and financial records. What I discovered there completed the picture of systematic deception that had been destroying my financial security while funding her elaborate lifestyle. Multiple income streams from different clients, each believing they were helping her through school. Money from men who thought they were paying for textbooks and lab fees, not realizing they were funding shopping sprees and luxury apartment rent. But most shocking was a savings account containing over $300,000, money she'd accumulated while watching me struggle to send her monthly support payments. Sophia, you have more money in this account than I've saved in my entire working life. I was planning to share it with you eventually. When? After I'd worked myself to death paying for your imaginary education? The cruelty of watching me sacrifice while she accumulated wealth was almost incomprehensible. My daughter had been living like a millionaire while I ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner to save money for her tuition payments. Mom, you don't understand the pressure I was under. When I graduated high school, everyone expected me to go to college, but I wasn't ready. I was scared of failing, scared of disappointing you. So instead you decided to lie to me for 4 years. I thought I'd figure it out eventually. Maybe go back to school later, or find a way to make the lies true. The childish logic of her rationalization was almost more infuriating than the deception itself. Sophia had created an elaborate alibi, rather than having one honest conversation about her fears and uncertainties. But her next admission would reveal the deepest betrayal of all. Sophia, who else knows the truth about what you've been doing? The question hung in the air while she calculated how much more damage her answer might cause. Your sister Elena knows.
Elena knows what?
She knows I'm not in school. She knows about my work. The betrayal felt like a physical wound. Elena, my closest family member, the sister I spoke with every week, had been complicit in Sophia's deception for years. How long has Elena known? Since the beginning. When I first decided not to go to college, I was scared to tell you directly. So I told her instead. She said she'd help me figure out how to break the news to you. But instead of helping you tell the truth, she helped you maintain the lie. She thought it would be easier on you if you believed I was succeeding in school, while I figured out what I really wanted to do with my life. The conspiracy between my daughter and sister to protect me from reality felt more insulting than if they'd simply been honest about their contempt for my feelings and intelligence. Elena has been listening to me worry about sending you money, worry about your grades, worry about your future, all while knowing it was completely unnecessary. She kept saying we'd tell you when the time was right. When would that time be, Sophia? When I'd spent every penny of my retirement savings? When I'd worked myself into the hospital? The realization that I'd been surrounded by people who saw me as too fragile or stupid to handle the truth was more devastating than the lies themselves. I made a decision that would change everything. Call Elena. Right now. I want to hear her explain her part in this deception. Sophia's hands were shaking as she dialed my sister's number, putting the call on speakerphone with obvious reluctance. Elena, it's Sophia. I'm here with Mom, and she knows everything. The silence from Phoenix was deafening. Elena, my voice was steadier than I felt. Are you there? Teresa, I can explain. Can you explain why you've been lying to me for 4 years? I wasn't lying. I just wasn't correcting your assumptions. Elena, I've been working overtime shifts because I thought Sophia needed money for school. You knew she was making more money than both of us combined, and you said nothing. I thought it would hurt you to know the truth about what she was doing for work. So instead you let me hurt myself trying to support someone who didn't need my support. The twisted logic of their protection was infuriating. Both my daughter and my sister had decided that I was too weak to handle reality, so they'd constructed an elaborate fiction that was actually more harmful than the truth would have been. Teresa, we were going to tell you when. When what, Elena? When I'd worked myself to death, when I'd spent my last dollar. When would it have been convenient for you to let me stop destroying my financial future? You thought I was stupid. You thought I couldn't handle knowing my daughter had chosen a different path. So instead of treating me like an adult who deserved the truth, you treated me like a child who needed to be protected from reality. The conversation that followed would sever the last threads of trust in my family. Elena, how many times have I called you worried about Sophia's finances? Teresa, please. How many times have I told you I was working extra shifts to help pay for her education? The silence stretched long enough that I could imagine Elena calculating how many conversations she'd participated in, while knowing they were based on lies. Too many times to count. And you never once thought to tell me the truth. We thought we were protecting you. You were protecting yourselves from having to deal with my reaction to Sophia's choices. That was the core of it. Neither my daughter nor my sister had been protecting me. They'd been protecting themselves from the difficult conversation that honesty would have required. Elena, you've listened to me sacrifice my own comfort, my own financial security, my own peace of mind, all while knowing it was completely unnecessary. How is that protection? I know it looks bad. It doesn't look bad, Elena. It is bad. It's a betrayal of the most basic trust between family members. Sophia was crying now, probably realizing that her deception hadn't just damaged her relationship with me. It had destroyed the entire family dynamic that had supported both of us. Mom, I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far. 4 years of lies. 4 years of watching me struggle. 4 years of letting me believe in a version of you that never existed. The weight of those 4 years felt crushing. Every proud conversation about Sophia's academic achievements. Every sacrifice I made to support her education. Every moment of worry about her financial security. All of it based on fiction. But the most painful realization was still coming. Sophia, I need you to calculate exactly how much money I've sent you over the past 4 years. She pulled out her phone and began scrolling through our text message history, apparently keeping track of every financial request and payment, including tuition, living expenses, books, and emergency money, about $190,000. $190,000. Money I'd earned through overtime shifts at the hospital. Money I'd borrowed against my retirement accounts. Money I'd saved by living frugally and denying myself basic comforts. And how much of that money did you actually need? None of it. The simple honesty of that answer was more devastating than elaborate explanations would have been. Sophia, do you understand what $190,000 means to someone like me? It's my entire retirement savings. It's my security in old age. It's the difference between living comfortably and living in poverty when I can't work anymore. I was going to pay you back. With money you earned lying to other people about needing financial help for school, I was going to invest it, make it grow, give you more than you'd given me. I didn't want more than I'd given you. I wanted honesty. I wanted to know that the person I was sacrificing for actually needed and appreciated my sacrifice. The conversation was revealing not just the scope of Sophia's deception, but the fundamental difference in how we viewed family relationships. I'd seen financial support as an expression of love and faith in her future. She'd seen it as an inconvenient obligation that was easier to maintain through lies than to address through honest conversation. The decision I made next would determine the rest of our relationship. Sophia, I'm going to give you one chance to make this right. My daughter looked up with desperate hope, probably expecting me to offer some path to reconciliation that would allow us to rebuild our relationship. You're going to return every penny of the money I sent you, plus interest to cover what I could have earned if I'd invested it instead of giving it to you. Mom, I can do that. I have the money. And you're going to write letters to Alina and everyone else who's been complicit in this deception, explaining that you lied to them about your situation and that their participation in covering up your lies was harmful and wrong. I can do that too. And you're going to seek professional help to understand why you thought 4 years of systematic deception was acceptable behavior towards someone who loved and supported you. The conditions weren't negotiable demands for punishment. They were basic requirements for demonstrating that she understood the magnitude of what she'd done and was committed to ensuring it never happened again. But if you're not willing to do all of those things immediately and completely, then our relationship is. Sophia's face went pale. Mom, you can't mean that. I absolutely mean it. You've proven that you're capable of lying to me for years while watching me sacrifice for your benefit. If you're not willing to take full responsibility and make complete restitution, then I have no reason to believe you've changed. But I'm your daughter. You're a person who's chosen to deceive and exploit me for 4 years. Being my daughter doesn't give you the right to continue that behavior. Her response would determine whether we had any future together. Sophia stared at me for a long moment, probably calculating whether my ultimatum was genuine or just another negotiation in our relationship. Mom, some of that money is already invested in business opportunities. I can't just liquidate everything immediately. Then you've made your choice. But that's not fair. What's not fair is spending 4 years lying to someone who trusted you completely. I stood up and walked toward the door, feeling lighter with each step despite the emotional devastation of ending my relationship with my only child. Mom, wait, please. Can't we work out some kind of payment plan? Can't we compromise on some of these demands? Sophia, the time for compromise was 4 years ago, when you decided to lie to me instead of having an honest conversation about your fears and goals. But I was young. I made mistakes. You made choices. Every single day for 4 years, you made the choice to continue deceiving me. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions that showed me exactly how much you respect and value me. Standing at her apartment door, I looked back at my daughter one final time. She was crying, probably realizing that her comfortable lifestyle, built on lies from multiple sources, was about to become much more complicated. Goodbye, Sophia. If you decide to meet my conditions completely and immediately, you know how to reach me. If not, don't contact me again. The elevator doors closing behind me felt like the end of everything I'd believed about motherhood. The 3-hour drive back to Phoenix gave me time to process the complete destruction of everything I'd believed about my daughter and my family. Every mile of familiar highway looked different now that I understood how thoroughly I'd been deceived by the 2 people I'd trusted most. My phone rang repeatedly. Calls from Sophia, calls from Alina, voicemails full of explanations and justifications that I didn't want to hear. The time for explanations had passed years ago. Now there was only the reality of broken trust and the decision of whether to rebuild or walk away. By the time I reached Phoenix, I'd made peace with the possibility that I might never speak to my daughter again. The alternative, pretending that 4 years of systematic deception could be forgiven without consequences, would just teach her that exploiting my love was an acceptable way to manage our relationship. The house felt empty, but peaceful when I walked inside. No more anxiety about Sophia's financial needs, no more pride in academic achievements that had never existed. No more relationship built on lies and maintained through exploitation. Just silence, honesty, and the beginning of whatever life I would build with the knowledge of who my daughter really was versus who I'd believed her to be. But the story wasn't over yet. 3 months passed without contact from Sophia or Elena. I used that time to consult with a financial planner about rebuilding my retirement security and to see a therapist about processing the betrayal and loss of the family relationships that had defined my adult life. Then Sophia called. Mom, I've done everything you asked. Her voice sounded different, smaller, less confident, perhaps more genuine than I'd heard in years. All of it? I've returned the full amount to your bank account, plus the interest you specified. I've written letters to Elena and everyone else explaining my deception and taking full responsibility, and I've been seeing a therapist twice a week for the past 2 months. I checked my bank balance while she spoke. The money was there, $190,000 plus calculated interest, restoring my retirement security and proving that Sophia was serious about making restitution. And what has your therapy taught you? That I was never really protecting you from anything. I was protecting myself from having to be honest about who I was and what I wanted, and that my fear of disappointing you led me to disappoint you in ways that were much worse than the truth would have been. The self-awareness in her voice suggested genuine understanding, rather than just words calculated to achieve reconciliation. But I still had one final test of her commitment to change. Sophia, if we're going to rebuild our relationship, it has to be based on complete honesty going forward. I understand. That means no more lies, no more deception, no more protecting me from realities you think I can't handle. I know, and it means accepting that trust. Once broken this completely, takes years to rebuild. You'll have to prove through consistent behavior over time that you've actually changed. I'm willing to do that. The conversation continued for over an hour, the first genuinely honest discussion we'd had in 4 years. Sophia told me about her fears of academic failure, her attraction to the easy money of escort work, and her gradual realization that living a lie was more exhausting than facing difficult truths. I told her about the impact her deception had had on my financial security, my relationship with Elena, and my ability to trust family members. I explained that forgiveness and reconciliation were different processes, and that while I was willing to forgive her, rebuilding trust would require sustained effort from both of us. 6 months later, we meet for lunch once a month. Careful, tentative encounters where we practice honesty and work to build a relationship based on who we actually are rather than who we've pretended to be. Sophia left escort work and enrolled in community college, pursuing a degree in business administration, with her own money and no lies about her academic progress. She sends me photos of her actual grades and tells me about real professors and genuine classmates. Elena and I speak occasionally now, but our relationship remains strained by her participation in Sophia's deception. Some betrayals heal faster than others. Most importantly, I've learned that love without honesty isn't really love. It's just enabling and exploitation disguised as family loyalty. Today, I am a woman who demands truth from the people who claim to love her. And that demand has given me relationships based on reality rather than comfortable fiction.